Welcome back to the Business Immigration Benchmark. I'm your host, Laura Blanaers. Have you been thinking about your global mobility user experience? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't yet. Either way, you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to walk through some creative solutions to enhance employee experience and, best thing, without increasing your budget. So we're going to increase employee engagement, employee experience without increasing any budget line items. I'll also share a story about a really great example of including employee experience from a company in a recent RFP I've responded to. So with that, we'll jump right in. Doing more with less. So I've talked about it on a number of episodes. Cost containment is the issue for global mobility programs this year and conceivably in the years to come. And how are we balancing employee experience in an era of budget tightening, defending budgets, especially with increased government filing fees? I think cost containment doesn't have to come at the price of employee experience. Although I will say I've been talking to many companies, their immigration specialists, and many companies are considering, if they haven't already, reducing premium processing or eliminating premium processing for extensions. This is something that most companies don't have the business necessity to require premium processing for extensions unless the foreign national has a business need to travel. So many companies are doing away with premium processing if they can. And then other companies are considering rolling back dependent filing fees. So companies in the past were holistically supporting family petitions, meaning their employee and any dependent filings like spouse and children, although it's not required. And so now companies are considering, if they haven't already, rolling back some of those dependent filing fees, again, because the filing fees have increased so substantially. So the financial burden on the company has increased tremendously. I think, while it is a reality that many programs may be considering these benefit reductions because of how it's hitting their bottom line, I think there are some cost containment friendly employment experience perks. One creative solution to consider that might fit your program is offering NIW support. So the national interest waiver, again, we're in the golden era, or some have been calling it the green era because of the green card of the national interest waiver, in that the Biden administration has defined more concretely what qualifies as work in the national interest, and specifically identifying that STEM degrees and STEM work can be considered in the national interest. And they identify some industries as well. So one thing your program can take a look at is sponsoring national interest waivers before PERM. And I say this because, one, NIW is faster. The legal prep, even if legal prep takes several months, it can be premium processed. And there's not a recruitment fee. So the national interest waiver, again, depending on what your legal vendor is charging for the national interest waiver, could end up being less expensive than the PERM process. And so pursuing this, if the foreign national is eligible, could result in cost savings, but it will also increase the employee experience in that there's faster processing time. And we see a lot of feedback, not only from immigration specialists, but also from employees, that a pain point consistently is how long the PERM process is taking. So taking a more aggressive or more flexible approach by pursuing the national interest waiver first, and if successful, you've saved your company some money and your employee certainly feels more supportive and has reduced that PERM processing pain point. The other sort of benefit into sponsoring that national interest waiver first, if unsuccessful, you could engage in an agreement with the employee beforehand, of course, to pass that cost off to the foreign national and then start PERM. The foreign national employee is not eligible or cannot pay for any part of the PERM process. So if you have a green card agreement with the foreign national employee that says, yes, we'll sponsor you for the national interest waiver, but if unsuccessful, we need to recoup the fees from you. so that they can then move into the perm process. I think both provides the employee with a benefit of faster processing and, more assurances with trying for the NIW, showing that, the company wants to support a faster processing, assuming it's a good faith eligible filing, and that if unsuccessful, pass the fees along to the foreign national and then start the perm. I think that would be a benefit for the employees and that they could benefit substantially from faster processing time. And then it also kind of, from a company perspective, again, if successful, saves the company money in the long run. But if unsuccessful, there's sort of this insurance policy that you'll pass the fees on to the foreign national. So this is something you'd want to work on with your immigration vendor, with employment counsel, because if you're ever engaging in any kind of employment agreement like a clawback, or this would be a sort of conditional clawback, you'd want to make sure that the agreement makes sense and is legal in your state. Another solution that won't increase the budget here is, offering multiple green card pathway support. The way this plays out is commonly your company will have supported a perm labor market test within perhaps that 1-year tenure, which according to our most recent benchmarking survey on green card sponsorship policies, most companies are sponsoring around a 1-year, 6-month tenure. So if you haven't already, take a look at that. But you'd probably have supported your foreign national employee. They've secured an approved I-140 based on that perm that was certified perhaps a few years ago. And the employee comes back and wants another crack at upgrading their filing to perhaps an EB1. This is common, especially with researchers or folks that have won some awards, patents. Their profile has increased given the work they've done for the company or out in the community, or just because they're more senior. Folks may qualify under the outstanding researcher or extraordinary ability where they didn't right out of school when your company hired them. Some corporate green card policies only support one pathway, although, again, according to our most recent benchmarking survey on this, more and more companies are open to multiple pathways than previously. And what companies are doing here is they're offering to sponsor the EB1 filing in that the company will prepare the legal filings, sign off on the petition, but pass the fees along to the foreign national employee. So this is another benefit that you're supporting the upgrade into the EB1 and, giving them the company name, which often does make for a more successful EB1 filing, especially in the outstanding researcher. If your entity or organization is one with a great reputation, it adds a lot of credibility to the EB1 filing. Of course, with the multinational manager EB1, the petitioner, the company, must be involved in the filing, but the company isn't required to pay the fees. So we're seeing this come up more and more as employees want to upgrade their filing to EB1 to get in a better line, because the EB2, EB3 lines languish for foreign nationals born in India or China. And so they're looking to move into a faster line EB1. And the company supporting financially another route to green card may be difficult to sell your leadership on, especially in the era of cost containment. But supporting the filing in, involving your legal team and passing the costs off to the foreign national is something that could enhance their chances for success in the EB1 category and certainly make your employee feel supported. But financially, you can pass those costs off. Again, you'll want to make sure that the agreement is in place, or at least your policy speaks to this, so it's clear and consistent for your foreign national population, your global mobility program. The other piece here to talk about is foreign national feedback. So I think this is a no-brainer. I think initiating that internal feedback from the users of your program is really important. You can start with something as simple as a survey to collect the feedback, to find out what's working in the program, what's not. I think your employees will be happy to share their positive experiences with their immigration mobility vendors, what they've liked, how they've liked engaging with them, the services they're receiving. And they might give you some challenges that they've faced to sort of take holistically and partner with your immigration vendor to understand where has there been conflict in the past. Is it just a one-off case, or are you seeing a global pattern? I think, Some immigration vendors, myself included, will offer surveys that we send upon completed cases. But I think initiating an internal survey more broadly about not only how your vendors are working with the foreign national employee users, but also like how your team and the internal stakeholders supporting the global mobility program are working together. Because what we have found when companies have done this is there's often a need for, or an expressed need for, a feedback forum where foreign nationals want to be meeting with each other to express their concerns about the upcoming election, to talk about recent visa processing when they've gone to travel to secure their visa. And that they also want internal resources. And so finding out exactly what your foreign national population is looking for will be helpful so that you can provide them with those resources. I think often, you can provide an FAQ because you think this would be helpful, but if you find out from your employees exactly what they need, then you know that you're exactly meeting their needs and can feel like you're partnering well and meeting them where they're at in their immigration journeys. The story I want to share here is, in a recent RFP that I have supported, a company brought in a foreign national user into the RFP presentation. And I was really struck by this in that they must have a great foreign national feedback loop or engagement, because bringing in the foreign national to the RFP to, ask questions to new potential vendors because they might be sensitive to different things than the immigration specialists are looking for, I think was a great way to show good faith engagement for the foreign national population. That this individual is perhaps a spokesperson for the user experience. And I think that's an amazing use of foreign national feedback and a meaningful engagement to include, in this process, because their voice is important as the end user in their program. So that was really cool. I hadn't seen that before. So kudos to the company that's doing that. And another creative solution that if this is if your company is involved in RFP or thinking about RFP, a really great way to meaningfully engage the foreign national users is to bring them into the fold and to the presentation to hear what immigration vendors are considering, how they'll support the foreign national population, because we did get some really good questions from the individual who was on the call that the immigration specialists weren't asking. So I think that's great, and that it's clear that that's part of what this company is considering when they're going out to RFP. And so that's really cool, and I think would be very meaningful to a program to ensure high user engagement. So that's it for today. Hopefully you've gotten some good ideas for employee engagement, enhancing employee experience without increasing any budget. And if you do have some strategies you've implemented in the past or success stories, DM me on LinkedIn. I really want to hear it, or come on the podcast. We'd love to promote your success in ways that you're enhancing employee experience and how you're approaching the engagement of your global mobility program users. Catch you all next week.